wizard of ass here. I'm at my parents' place for been like a half a week or so. Just some dealing with some bullshit at my apartment complex that I won't go into, but yeah, just fuck hell. Uh, but I don't know how many, probably not really any of you, but how many of you know that I deal with mental illness, not like self-diagnosed or anything. It's not like the Tumblr self-diagnosis of like, oh, I've got depression because I feel sad all the time. No, like all of my diagnoses are prescribed from doctors, you know, uh, people who have studied them in the medical psychological field. um, so yeah, and I deal with a lot of shit. Not to be, all like, oh, woe is me. It's like the world is, it's the world's fault. Shit sucks. I'm never gonna amount to anything. It's not really like that. It's just sometimes it's dealing with all this shit. Can be very crippling and just be detrimental to progress, uh, just in all aspects of my life. Whether it be social or learning or even just basic needs and doing shit that I need to do. I am better now in my life than I've ever been, but uh, that's not to say I still don't have plenty of problems. In fact, I've been having the feeling that I've been regressing socially in these past number of months. Um, just because it's like I've noticed that I get more nervous and more anxiety ridden and more paranoid um, in social situations and all that. And for it seemed like for a while, like it wasn't I would get anxiety ridden, but I could deal with it. But now it seems like it's almost gotten worse as of recent. But yeah, just I guess to kind of come out in the clear of what I've been diagnosed with is well, so far Asperger's, which I was diagnosed at like 18, which is pretty late. I'll I think typically people who get diagnosed with Asperger's, they get diagnosed much earlier, but I'm kind of one of them high functioning uh, Asperger's people, so it didn't like quite catch, there didn't. I guess diagnosing it kind of fell through the cracks, I suppose, for many years, even though I went through therapy um, pretty much all my life. So, so that's why I also kind of have a distrust for therapists and psychologists because, like, I've been dealing with this shit for all my life, and they couldn't even figure out that I had Asperger's and all this other shit for many years. So it's yeah, excuse me for not having a much trust in psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists. But yeah, Asperger's. The first thing I was ever diagnosed though was with depression, legitimate. Back in like the fourth grade, I believe. I think it was like the first time I started taking Paxil. All the way back then, and so that was like the first thing I started dealing with. Um, and then yeah, anxiety, shit like that. Uh, which some people go like, "Well, people, it's okay to have anxiety," which it is. It's a human emotion. It's just that when you are diagnosed with like social anxiety and shit like that, like it becomes much more than just the casual anxiety feeling. It becomes a remember what I think the Amazing Atheist described it as the world hates me syndrome, which is that's kind of what it is. If they were to describe it very simply, you just start thinking that everybody is noticing how shitty you are, kind of thing. Like even though they're not even looking at you, you think that they know that you're like, oh my god, they think you're ugly. They think you're a horrible person. They think you're weird. They think you know Oh, that's the thing with mental illness is your mind always goes to the worst. Um, your brain is essentially feeding you false information. Um, so yeah, that's sucks. And I always find I've found people I found people who don't even think that a lot of this shit is even real. They just think it's all made up and all that. That's hard. You can't really talk to those people because there's really nothing you can say that will ever get them to really want to understand it because they don't want to understand. Um, we can give them all the scientific evidence that we have about mental illness, and then they still kind of ignore it. So what do you really say to that, other than just really ignore and then hope that they learn uh, in the future and grow as a person and realize that, oh shit, I was wrong. Mental illness can be real. Um, but anyway, yeah, depression, Asperger's, diagnosed also with bipolar. Um, I was like a year or two after I was diagnosed with Asperger's. And then I was diagnosed with, I didn't even know it until I did some testing for something. I don't remember what it was, but then I found out that my psychiatrist or something like that had diagnosed me with psychosis, uh, which makes sense when I look at the symptoms and everything. So you tend to withdraw from people, and you just have these delusions, which is some people have hallucinations, both auditory and visual. I don't really have hallucinations. I sometimes do hear weird stuff sometimes, but it's not very often. It's more of the delusion of how the world is rather than a literal hallucination of sorts. So I'm always assuming the worst. I'm always thinking, like right now, like I would have been dealing with it while I'm here because I've been gone since Monday and it's now Thursday. I've been paranoid recently that someone's been stealing shit from my house, just shit like that. And I've left my house a number of times for a number of days, and nothing's ever happened. But I still kind of get that thought starts rolling in my head of like, oh my god, someone's going to try and steal all my shit. I'm going to come back and all my shit's going to be gone. Some of which is irreplaceable, and shit can be very scary. It's like you keep wanting to tell yourself it's bullshit. It's not true, and people aren't coming to your house and stealing your stuff. Your house is locked. You have lights on, and there's cameras everywhere. If someone did break in like a window or broken a window or door, like someone would see it and they'd report it to the office, and then their office would call me because they're kind of, I think, legally supposed to tell me if my house has been robbed. But I still think about it. Yeah, I still think like, well, the people who work at the office are pretty incompetent. They probably would be too lazy or too stupid not to call me. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe if they didn't even know or weren't even told that my place, was ransacked, and they wouldn't even call me because they wouldn't even know. Just all that shit. So it's kind of fucked up because everybody would think that, oh, you mean you're just thinking crazy. You're just being delusional. You're thinking you're just not thinking straight, and it's all probably true. But the thing is like when you think that stuff comes in your own head on a constant basis, you obviously think you'd catch on to it all your life. At some point in your life, you think in your mid 20s, like, what, my brain tells me a lot of false shit, so maybe I shouldn't listen to it. But it doesn't really work that way, just because there are many other times where you're right. Your brain tells you, the right information. So and not only that, but when you are thinking about something like, oh, like someone stealing from my house, like I said, like there are things that, like, there's logic, or not really logic, but there's things behind what I would think, like, people who work at the office are incompetent, they're not very good at their job. If they didn't see it happen or anything, then how would they know? Just shit like that. So there are like other thoughts come in your mind that make it sound like the idea that someone stealing from your house could be possible, even though it's probably not. But the fact that your mind is not only feeding you false information, but also other information that might um, make the case that someone make a stronger case that someone is stealing from your house. So it's not only telling you false information, but it's also giving you I don't know what the word is for it, but other information that would make sense, I suppose, to say that someone's stealing from you or something like that. So you know, people sometimes think it's like, oh, just stop thinking about it, or they always give you some sort of really simplistic answer that it's like it's really not that fucking easy. It's not something you can just stop. And when it comes to people who think that mental illness is fake and all that shit, I always have to ask the question of, do you think that your brain controls you, or you control your brain? Um, I don't know, whatever answer they would give, but really the answer is it's kind of a trick question. It's both. You both. Your brain gives you information and controls you, but you also give information to your brain, and it works vice versa. It works both ways. So if your brain, so that's the case. If your brain has some wires crossed and some malfunctions, it's not going to work, to the capacity that a brain that doesn't have, those issues. So um, it's not just as simple of like, just, hey, just stop thinking those things. So, yeah, it's a struggle, and it's a struggle having to explain to people because I'm not good at um, part of the Asperger's. I'm not really good at putting everything I say into words. I'm not the most articulate person. So if people don't get what I'm saying, then it makes it all the more frustrating because it's like I don't really know other way to fucking tell you other than what I just said. So extremely frustrating. Um, but yeah, not to like harp on all this shit, but I just hope that in the future, I know we're like more enlightened about mental illness now than we've ever been, but I still think that there's a lot of work to do when it comes to understanding different types of mental illnesses. I hope that changes over time and gets better. There's still plenty of people out there who dismiss it and don't. Guess not. Guess they kind of don't care, but they just straight up ignore the fact that it exists. Um, so I mean, because like people, back in like the 50s and 60s, I probably would have been put in a mental institution for life at some point, doing the things I've done. But nowadays, it's like I've spent a few times in some mental wards, but not anything like long periods of time or anything. But back in long time ago, I would be in a mental institution and be kept there. I would have been like in Bedlam and shit. If you don't know what Bedlam is, look it up. It's like this old mental ward that was around like what the 1800s or something like that in England, and it was not very good at treating its patients. Kind of barbaric in its ways. So yeah, mental illness. It's certainly a fun thing to deal with on all sides, not just like yourself, but any family member or friend, you know, that sees their friend or family member having to deal with it. Everybody suffers from it. But there are some strange pluses to having mental illness because I personally I was watching just Bill Burr, his new special, and he talks about how if you're crazy, you can spot other people who are crazy, which I think that's kind of true. And it says it's always in the eyes. I'm like, yeah, it is always in the eyes. Um, so yeah, I think yeah, it's definitely one thing where you can like if you're kind of crazy yourself, you can tell who other crazy people are just purely by understanding of craziness. How else to put it? I'm not the most articulate in the moods today, so I can't even English. I can't know English. I can't know English. No today, tomorrow, yesterday, tomorrow's. Um, but anyway, not to be trying not to be sappy. Yeah. Anyway, if any of my subscribers watching this have any mental illnesses, please write them and talk to me about them in the comments section. I'd like to hear your story and what you've got and how you deal with it, please. Also, if you watch this whole thing, please like that video, thumbs up, all that shit. Like I said, if you also share mental illness, please comment about it. So I like to hear other people's perspectives on shit. So, all right. Well, I shall see you again soon. Hopefully, I shall feel better. Feel bet. All right. So, see you later, bitches.